comes, because he is coming soon. So if you'll join me in your Bibles to 2 Peter, we're going to start here. We're going to come back to here later, but we're also going to be in the book of Genesis as well. But 2 Peter, just as our opening this morning, we're going to look at a man who learned some terrible truths about his testimony. 2 Peter chapter 2, if you'll join me in standing out of respect for God's word, we'll begin this morning, just 2 verses to start. You can probably already figure where we're going to go with this. 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 7 and 8. The Bible says, and delivered just Lot, not just Lot alone, but just, a characteristic of him. Delivered just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. For that righteous man, dwelling among them, and seeing and hearing, vexed his righteous soul from day to day with their unlawful deeds. Father, I pray that you would bless your word this afternoon. This is your word that is being proclaimed, not mine. This is your message, not mine. And Father, I pray that the truths that you've spoken to me on and you've worked on my life with, I pray will be a blessing to those here and a challenge, if necessary, for those here, that we mind our testimonies and that we focus on the terrible consequences that could happen if we ruin our testimony among the lost and among those around us, Father. And I do pray that we take the lessons we learn from the life of Lot and we use them to further and strengthen ourselves today, that we can be serving you with our lives and our testimony, so that when people see us, they will see Jesus in us. Father, I do pray once again that you'll keep our minds clear. We understand this afternoon service can be rough from a physical standpoint, but Lord, I just pray that you would open our minds, keep us awake and attentive to the preaching of your word, Father, not because it's me, but because it's your word being preached. And I pray that you will bless that this afternoon, Father. I ask all these things in your Son's name. Amen. Please be seated. So I want you to think about this, the title of this message. We're going to come back to it later. The title of this message is A Light Once Bright. A light once bright. Because that was Lot. It says it right here in 2 Peter. I mean, he traveled with Abraham. Abraham, who is known as a friend of God. Abraham, a man who served God, and he set up memorials throughout these different experiences in his life. And there's so much you can glean from the life of Abraham. And Lot lived with him. Lot traveled with him. And yet there came a time where a decision was made, and we see the consequences of that decision. We see the effects of that. So a light once bright. So let's consider first what a testimony is. Webster, in his 1828 dictionary, defines a testimony as a solemn declaration or affirmation made for the purpose of establishing or proving some fact. Now, it also has a judicial sense to it, but it's exactly what our testimonies for Christ is. We are trying to prove to those around us that see us that Christ is real. That Christ is real. He uses creation to do that. He uses us to do that. Your testimony is so vitally important. So let's do a little exercise here this morning. I'm going to read off a name, and just, you can say it out loud, it's fine. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I mention these names? Okay, they're all from the Bible, but we mentioned the name Ruth. It's the first thing that comes to your mind about Ruth. Godly? Okay, anything, anybody else? Faithful? Virtuous? Absolutely. So we see these words that come up. That's the testimony that Ruth has. Even though we've never met her, but just from what we have about her life, her testimony is that of virtue, of godliness, of faithfulness. Okay, let's read another one here. David. Man after God's own heart. That's a testimony given to him from God and his word. What else? Warrior. Oh, am I on? I hear myself. Oh, yep, you're right. I'm just loud enough, I guess. There we go. It's coming. Thank you. Sorry, Courage. So David. Yeah, that's much better there. Okay. Sorry about that. So David, warrior. Faithful. King. Yeah, so we see the testimony that David had. Okay? Let's do another one. How about Demas? Forsaken. Yeah, Demas. He turned back. Gave up. All these different things. Okay, so now we think of Lot. You see it right here. He was just. He was a righteous man dwelling among them. But we see the consequences of ruining your testimony. So when we think about the idea, as I was thinking through this message and coming up with titles for this message, one of the titles that came to my mind was, what do others think about me? Because when you think about that question, okay, you ask that question to really anybody, what's the most common answer you get back? Say, hey, what do others think about you? A very common answer is, well, I don't care what other people think about me. And to a degree, I would agree with that. Like, if they don't care, like, I get made fun of all the time for my mustache. I get complimented on it too. But I get a lot of people, especially like some young people, see them just start laughing at me. I don't care about that. That I don't care about what people think about. It's what I do. It's how I dress. Don't care. Okay? But when people are talking about me, and when they're thinking about me, I should care how I portray Christ. So as you think a little bit deeper about that, the idea of I don't care what other people think, I get it. But if you're a Christian, you should, because you carry a testimony with you. You carry a testimony with you, and we must be careful about that. So I just want to look through a couple things. You'll turn with me to Genesis 13. Genesis 13. You can mark that spot, and you can mark Genesis 19. And we'll get to those here in just a minute. But I'm going to go to one more passage first, and then we will begin. Because when you think about the testimony that you have, another excuse I've heard talking to people and just getting to know people, especially Christian people, is I've heard this excuse given before, is, well, Aaron, you know what? I didn't really have the best upbringing. Okay, I get it. Some people didn't. Some people come from very rough backgrounds. Family issues. I mean, maybe they were even adopted. They were put up for adoption. I mean, yes, there are terrible backgrounds out there. There are terrible upbringings that you can have. But really, when you think about your testimony, the first thing that comes to my mind is there's a certain triviality to your upbringing. It really doesn't matter. Your upbringing really doesn't matter. So we can't use that excuse. Well, Aaron, I didn't have the best upbringing, so God can't expect much of me. Yes, he can. Yes, he can. He can expect much from you. Because if you think about it, there's a man in the Bible, 1 Kings chapter 21, I'll just read it just for sake of time. Since you're in Genesis 13, we're going to get to that in just a second. But 1 Kings chapter 21, verse, 1 Kings, nope, I meant to go 2 Kings. I wrote down the wrong passage, sorry. 2 Kings 19. 2 Kings 21. There we go. Okay, I'm here. Gotcha. 2 Kings 21, verse 19, and says, Ammon was 22 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Meshullemeth, the daughter of Haruz of Joppah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, and as his father Manasseh. So he followed in his upbringing. His father Manasseh did evil in the sight of the Lord. Ammon did evil in the sight of the Lord. And he walked in all the ways that his father walked in, and served the idols that his father served and worshiped them. And he forsook the Lord God of his fathers, and walked not in the way of the Lord. And the servants of Ammon conspired against him, and slew the king in his own house. And the people of the land slew all of them that had conspired against King Ammon. And the people of the land made Josiah, his son, king in his stead. Now the rest of the acts of Ammon which he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And he was buried in his sepulchre in the garden of Uzzah, and Josiah his son reigned in his stead. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 31 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jedidiah, the daughter of Adiah of Bosketh. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, and walked in all the way of David his father, and turned not aside to the right hand or to the left. So Josiah didn't have the best upbringing. Josiah's pointing to himself. He's like, me? But you read about Josiah. He didn't have the best upbringing. His grandfather was wicked. His father was wicked. So you think, yeah, he can use the excuse, I didn't have the best upbringing. It's just what I knew. But it says he did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord. Your upbringing does not matter. So I want you to remember this. You are responsible for your personal testimony, not for your upbringing. You are responsible for your personal testimony, not for your upbringing. We did not get a choice in what family we were born into. Some were born into great families, some weren't born into great families. It's not our choice on that matter. Our choice is when we are presented with the gospel of Christ, it is what we do with that, and once we are saved, what we do with the life that God has given us to serve Him and to do what is right. Because there ultimately will come a turning point in our lives, and that's where we're at in Genesis chapter 13. There's a turning point of decisions when it comes to our testimonies that we have. So Genesis chapter 13. Genesis 13, we'll start in verse 5. Genesis 13 and verse 5. A couple pages off here. Genesis 13, verse 5. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. So they got to a point, because God had blessed their venture so far, especially Abram's venture, but Lot was a recipient of that blessing too. So much so that they could not dwell in the same land together. They had too many herds, too many servants. They had too much stuff to dwell together. So there was this turning point, this decision that was offered to Lot. And you see in verse 8, and Abram said unto Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes, and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. Then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan. And Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other. So there was a choice that was made. And when it comes to your testimony, there will be times in your life where choices are made. I think it's on average, I have it written down here, on average, we make roughly 35,000 decisions every day. 35,000 decisions are made every day. Some are subconscious, they just naturally happen. But from what you eat, to what you wear, to where you go, to what you do, all these different decisions that are made throughout the day. We make so many decisions, but there are points in our life, especially when our testimony is in place, that there is a turning point for some of these decisions. You're put in a position where your decision will impact your testimony. I've seen it happen so many times. I just got back about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago from a sales meeting that we have to go to every year for work. And we get together, the group I'm in now, it's about roughly 2,000 to 3,000 people are gathered together for the sales meeting. We have all these sessions and all these different things. So all these people come together from all across the country. In the other group I was in before this one, it was roughly about 10 to 11,000 people. So you get all these people together, and the people that I've talked to, so many of them would say they have a testimony of salvation. They would claim to be Christian. And yet when they're separated from everything they have at home, and certain things are provided, like alcohol, choices are made. Choices are made. And I'm not saying this to brag about myself, but I find it interesting that especially new people that I work with, when they come up to me at these events and they see me with just like a bottle of water in my hand, because that's usually all I have because I don't drink, they're like, "Oh, are you recovering?" I'm like, no, I just never started. I just don't drink. I'm a Christian. And it offers up an opportunity to talk to them. And people find it fascinating. You know, usually you picture like people get ridiculed for something like that. People find it fascinating, in all honesty. When I say, no, I'm a Christian, I never have drank. They're like, that's amazing. I wish I never have. I wish I never started. I wish this. But I could easily be put in a situation where I'm at this meeting, my wife and my kids are at home, this church is here, I'm nowhere near anybody that knows me. Why not? There's a decision that needs to be made that will impact my testimony. So when it comes to your testimony, there's two kinds of mindsets that you can have here. Number one, which Lot had here, is a short-term mindset. It's a short-term mindset. The other one is a long-term mindset. Lot was offered a choice here. He had herds, and that was the focus of his decision. He did not consider what was past the well-watered plains of Jordan. He saw the plains. He saw the lush greenery that was before him. He's like, man, these are beautiful plains. They're well-watered. The Jordan River's right there. Everything is perfect. That's where I want to go. He didn't look past that to see Sodom and Gomorrah. Because I don't think at this point he would be ignorant about those two cities. I'm sure they probably have traveled through there, maybe done a little bit of business there, just trying to get some stuff. I'm sure he may have understood a little bit about those cities. But he's like, you know what, they're far enough out, I want this right here. Because then what does the Bible say he did? Lot pitched his tent toward Sodom. He's like, I'm just making the decision right now because I got herds, I've got people to take care of, I've got animals to take care of. This is the perfect spot, I'll be right here. And he pitched his tent toward Sodom. And before long, we're going to get to it here in a second, he's in Sodom. He's in Sodom. Didn't happen overnight, but he pitched his tent towards Sodom. To where every morning he'd get up, he'd walk out, he'd see the city. You know what? Maybe a rough spell came about the land, and you know, oh man, these plains aren't as good as they normally are. I got to go a little bit closer maybe to Sodom. I got to go do some business there. Maybe I just got to go a little bit farther. He was short-term in his mindset. Jamison, Faust, and Brown in their commentary on the Bible made this note on this idea of being short-term minded. A choice excellent from a worldly point of view, but most inexpedient for his best interest. He seems, though a good man, to have been too much under the influence of a selfish and covetous spirit. And how many, alas, imperil the good of their souls for the prospect of worldly advantage. It's incredibly true. I mean, what does the Bible say? Man can gain the whole world and still what? Lose his own soul. He can still lose his own soul after gaining everything this world has to offer. How many Christians have given up on God's plan for their life because the job was just too good? Maybe they moved to an area that there wasn't a good, solid church that they could partner with, that they could become a part of, a member of, that would still strengthen their family and strengthen themselves and still be able to get that promotion. Maybe they're like, you know what, it's not there, but we'll find one. We'll find one. We'll be okay. The money's too good. The opportunity's too good. They're short-term minded. Instead of thinking, well, if there's not a church here, maybe I'll check the surrounding areas. Okay, there's not one here, okay? Maybe a little bit farther. Do I really take this position? Do I really take this opportunity? I can't find a church. If it's not important to them, they'll make the decision. Are you short-term minded or are you long-term minded when it comes to your testimony? Proverbs 13, verse 20, he that walketh with wise men shall be wise. Very simple statement, really. You walk with wise men, you'll be wise. But a companion of fools shall be destroyed. Okay? Some of us work outside in a secular environment, so we interact with people. This idea of walking is how you're living your life, how you're associating your time and your attention to these things. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise. What's your priority in your life? Because that's going to affect your testimony. If your priority is, I'm going to be at church every chance I get, every opportunity I get to serve, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, my family's going to do this, great. You're thinking long term. But if you're like, you know what, I really enjoy hanging out with these people from work, or I really enjoy hanging out with these family members that maybe aren't saved, and we go out and we do this, we go out and do this. Yeah, it's not maybe the best area I should be in, but I'm fine, I'm saved, I'm a Christian, I'm protecting myself. There's going to come a time when you're not. Because remember, we're going to get back to this later, we have an enemy. Be sober, be vigilant, for your adversary the devil as a roaring lion walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. He's patient. He'll wait. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. Proverbs 9, verse 6. Forsake the foolish and live, and go in the way of understanding. You go to the New Testament, you see this principle taught out in the New Testament as well, 2 Corinthians chapter 6. Verses 14 through 18, be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness? And what concord hath Christ with Belial? Or what part hath he that believeth with an infidel? And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For ye are the temple of the living God, and as God hath said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I receive you, and I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. The principle and idea of separation. Like I said, this doesn't mean you never talk to an unsaved person. What is our commission to do? To share the gospel. But who do you associate with? Who are your friends? Who are those that you consider close in your personal life? Who are those that you consider those confidants, those trusted individuals that you share a lot of things about your life with? They should be people that are wise. If they're foolish, we see what's going to happen. There is a turning point of decisions that will be made. Lot made a decision in Genesis 13. Now go over with me to Genesis 19. Genesis 19. Now we see everything coming to fruition here in Lot's life. Due to the short-term mindset of Lot, he inched closer and closer to Sodom. Like I said, maybe there was a couple years where the harvest wasn't as well, the land wasn't as good as he needed it to be. He's like, I've got to go do some business. He does some business in Sodom. He starts saying, there's some nice places here. There's some nice homes here. I mean, I'm living in a tent, but I can get a place here and we can just live in the city and then take my herds out and go do what I need to do, but have a safe area to live in. Maybe he rationalized it however we need to. And you know, how often do we rationalize the decisions that we make? It's not that bad. I mean, other people do worse. I mean, come on, Brother Pellicone. What I did wasn't terrible. We rationalize. We're good at rationalizing. We start from an early age as kids. We start at an early age of rationalizing everything that we do. Why'd you hit your sibling? Well, they hit me first. Why'd you take that? I wanted it. Kids are honest. They are. But it doesn't stop as adults if we're not careful. We rationalize everything we do. Oh, it's not that bad. That temptation to be online after everybody's in bed. Yes, there's things out there, but I'm not going to go searching for that. The devil's like, ha, gotcha. Here you go. I'll throw something in there if he knows that's your weakness. Okay, I'm at this meeting and there's going to be alcohol there, but you know what? I don't drink anymore. Maybe it was something you did. He'll put enough stress on you to be like, here you go. Maybe that's your thing. Maybe it's backbiting about people around you, maybe at church or family or whatever it is, and they'll do something so small that they don't even consider, but it's just enough for the devil to say, here you go. Then you rationalize, well, they did this. I'm just telling you what they did. I'm just sharing this prayer request with you. Let's be honest with ourselves. Come on. Sometimes prayer request is a little bit of gossip, if you're not careful. We can rationalize it however we want to. But we will make decisions and we'll justify it as best as we can to make it make sense. Because there is at first, we'll see number 3 here, we'll see the temporary enjoyments. I mean, what does the Bible say about the pleasures of sin? They're for a season. Sin is pleasurable. So again, let's not fool ourselves. We're all family here. Let's not fool ourselves in thinking that sin is not pleasurable. It is, but it's destructive. And we're about to see that. Maybe at first when they moved into the city, it wasn't that bad. They weren't seeing a lot of the stuff that was happening. They're new to an area. I mean, you think about it, you move into a new neighborhood. Yeah, you meet the neighbors. We're glad to have Bill here today that just moved into where BJ and Becca and Caleb and Megan live. Yeah, he's new to the area. He's getting to know the people. I mean, especially going to larger subdivisions where people have formed like communities and little groups and stuff like that. They're going to find out everything they can about the new people. Like, are they going to fit in with us? So maybe that's what the people of Sodom were doing. We're not going to show them everything just yet. We'll make it appeasing to them, then we'll start getting them in to this or that or whatever it may be. There's temporary enjoyments. He probably met nice people, started settling down in his new life in this new city, and soon he began to make a name for himself and became a respected member of society. Because if you look in Genesis 19, verse 1, and there came 2 angels to Sodom at even. So it's right in the evening time, nice relaxing time of day. Work's done, everything's good. And Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. Now, of course, you read this from a Western mindset. It doesn't mean he's sitting in the middle of the gate. This phrase, this gives the idea, and Jamieson, Faust, and Brown in their commentary gave up this idea of sitting in the gate. They commented on this saying, in Eastern cities, it is the market, the seat of justice, of social intercourse and amusement, especially a favorite lounge in the evenings, the arched roof affording a pleasant shade. So this is generally above the gate of the city where they can overlook the land, they can overlook the city. It's kind of a social hangout spot, a lounge, you would say. It's nice, it's pleasant, there's shade, there's people there, business is being done, social interactions being done. It's just a place to hang out and relax. And a lot of people that were higher up in the city would generally meet there to discuss the different things going on. So Lot eventually became part of that group. He became respected. Now at this point, we know from a future verses we're going to look at here in a second, he knew the men of the city too. Because what was his reaction in verse 1? In verse 2, it says, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground, and he said, behold, now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early and go on your ways. He's like, come into my house, stay all night, I'll take care of you, it's great, and then in the morning, we're going to get you out of here. Why? Because he knew the people of that city. He knew the people of that city. And he knew who these men were. He knew there was something special about these 2 individuals walking in, these 2 men, these 2 angels. He knew they can't be out here. They can't. Because what do they say? Verse 3. Or into verse 2. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him and entered into his house. And he made them a feast and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. They said, No, we're going to spend the night in the street. We're going to see what the city's all about. He pressed them greatly. He did not let no stay as the answer. Because he knew. At this point in his life, he knew. Why? Because 2 Peter chapter 2, he vexed his righteous soul from day to day because of their unlawful deeds. He knew what these men had, but he had vexed, he had seared his conscience over and over and over. So much so that he knew what they were going to do, but he said, you know what? I can't take no for an answer. Come in. I'll make you unleavened bread. We're going to take care of you. We're going to feast. It'd be great. Nope, you're coming in. Nope, you're coming in. Nope, you're coming in, please. Till finally they said, okay. He knew what was going to take place. He knew. Because there ultimately will come, number 4, a timely test. There will come a timely test. And I want you to remember God's warning to the tribes of Reuben and Gad in Numbers 32. He says, But if ye will not do so, behold, ye have sinned against the Lord, and be sure your sin will find you out. This was a challenge to the tribes of Reuben and Gad, saying, yes, I'll give you this land on this side of Jordan, but when they go into fight, you better go with them. You better do your part in helping take that land. I'll give you this, but you better, because if not, your sin will find you out. And that is a principle that it rings true in every area of our life. You may have a sin that you're hiding. Doesn't matter what it is. If there's a sin that you have not confessed, you have not made right, it will come to call. Just like the old tale of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. He came and got the kids. He said, I'll make do on my promise. He came and got them. The parents didn't like it, but he came and got them. Sin will come and collect. And it's going to be at a time, it doesn't matter if it's convenient for you or not, it will come and collect. And that's what's happening to Lot right now. He's vexed his righteous soul from day to day. Now, yes, this is also dealing with the sin of Sodom and the sin of Gomorrah. We understand the judgment that comes from that, but Lot's in the midst of this. And he's saying, no one will ever know. Nobody's ever going to find out. God's not looking. God doesn't care. God's focused on Abraham anyways. Who am I? I'm living my life. God came. Because we understand what Abraham did during this time. He pleaded with God. If 50, 30, 10, he's like, just go as low as you can. I know there's Lot, and I'm sure he's still doing what's right. His family's probably still doing what's right. Lord, if there's at least this. And God said, if there's that, then yes, I'll spare them. But even Abraham was disappointed. Abraham was disappointed. There's a timely test. How many times? Think back to your life. Those that have been in church for a long time, maybe you were a teenager in church here, you went to church camps, you've had Valiant for Truth conferences, we've had missions conferences, we've had revivals, all these special meetings and all these decisions that were made. Stick with me. All these decisions that were made, you promised the Lord to overcome this besetting sin or to do this or to do that. You make these vows to God, and if you go back in the Psalm 119 study we worked through in Sunday school last year, you make a vow to God. You best keep that vow. God doesn't take those decisions lightly. He doesn't take the time that you come up here to bow yourself before Him and to make that decision, that commitment to Him. He does not take it lightly. We may, but He doesn't. So you better make good on that. Because the devil's right behind you, setting up something to test you. Maybe God puts you through it. We understand God puts His children through tests. He did Job. But there's a test that is coming, that your decision made in that time of testing, that time of trial, will either make or break your testimony in the eyes of other people. Okay? Righteous Lot, now enjoying his life, sees these men coming and knows who they are. Panic sets in, and he knows the people he lives among, and he knows he needs to get these men into his house. And his testimony is tested that evening. You see how greatly he pressed them. It says, and he pressed upon them greatly. He was passionate, saying, no, you're coming in. And they come in, but now we're going to witness the terrible effects. As we conclude this morning, we're going to look at the terrible effects of a light once bright, now going dim. We see first, the first terrible effect we see starting in verse 7. Actually, we'll back up to verse 4 just for context here. We see the loss of morality. The first terrible effect of your decisions in regards to your testimony is you will lose your morality. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter, and they called unto Lot and said unto him, where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door unto them and shut the door after him. He made sure he was like squeezing through that door to be the only one that's out there to plead his case, to use his authority, so to speak, in this matter. In verse 7, and he said, I pray you, brethren. Notice that word he used. He didn't say fellas. He said, I pray you, brethren. He associated himself with these men. Do not so wickedly. Behold now, and this verse, as a young person, yes, I saw it and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would he do that? But after becoming a dad, and especially after becoming a dad to a daughter, this verse blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind that he would be willing to do this kind of depravity. But then as I look back on my life, the depths of depravity that I have gone to because of hidden sin are just as bad. Do not doubt and do not question how far your sin nature will take you if you are not careful. Lot probably never thought he was going to do this. But given this time, this lie that he had built, this falsehood that he had built, this testimony that he had built, he had to keep everything as front-facing as possible. And he says, you know what? You can't touch these men, but here are my 2 daughters who have never known a man. Do whatever you want to them. The depths of depravity we as Christians can drop to. Do not be deceived. You can go as deep as you can go. And that depravity is a bottomless pit. Do not think you are below or above anything in this life. You're not. Lot wasn't. This righteous man that God said in 2 Peter chapter 2, willing to save this face that he had created, brought his 2 daughters out. He lost his morality. There's a quote, and I think pastors mentioned it before. I've heard it used in messages throughout the years, and I was trying to find the exact attribution to, and the one that kept coming up I found interesting. Because I know he's used it in a book. I just don't know if he's the originator of it or not. But it's the common quote we see: sin will take you farther than you want to go, keep you longer than you want to stay, and cost you more than you want to pay. When I was searching that, I was like, who was the originator of that quote? Just trying to, Somebody say it? Okay, I thought I heard somebody say it. Okay. The name that kept coming up was Ravi Zacharias. And I found that interesting. I don't know if he originated or not. I couldn't verify it. I saw a couple other names mentioned in there. But whether he originated or not, he had this, I believe, in one of his books. And look at his testimony today. Candace and I used to listen to him driving into church here when we first moved up here. He was on the radio. And I found him fascinating, listening to how he would debate and how he would discuss these certain things. He was a very fascinating character to listen. He was an apologist. Ravi Zacharias, I think International Ministries was the name of his organization. well-known speaker. Testimony in shambles because of sexual sin. So here he is telling everybody, hey, sin will take you, da-da-da-da-da. He's a living example of it. We cannot put our trust in men alone. I want you to understand that. We cannot put our trust in men alone. We live in the social media age. There's social media pastors. There's online pastors. There's all these different speakers, all these different men. And there's some great ideas out there. There's great podcasts. There's great talks. There's great things online that you can really glean some truth from. But don't become so infatuated with a man. I mean, people are doing it in the political realm with Trump. They're so infatuated with one man who, yes, is striving to do great things for our country, and I'm thankful for it. But he's one man. He's not perfect. He's going to be gone. And who are they going to fill that with? But when you think about it from a personal perspective, in our personal testimony, sin will take you farther than you want to go, keep you longer than you want to stay, and cost you more than you want to pay. And we see that with Lot. He sunk to such depths to offer up his own 2 daughters. So no wonder they did, going back to the upbringing idea here, no wonder they did what they did later on in this chapter. Their dad didn't set a good example for them. Now, yes, they should have made their own choices and done what was right. But they're like, our dad was going to offer us up, so let's just... And we see the Moabites and the Ammonites come from that. The effects that were even generationally a trouble in the future. But not only do you lose your morality, we see in verse 14, you also lose respect and authority. And Lot went out. Verse 14, this was after the men that came in said, hast thou any here besides son-in-law and thy sons and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. They were telling me, hey, you got to get out of here. We're going to destroy this place. Verse 14, and Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. He had no authority with those guys. They had no respect for him. They did not respect him. They did not care what they're like, this dude's insane. The city's not going to be destroyed. You're crazy. You've made quite a life for yourself here. Now you're saying it's all going to be destroyed because these 2 men come in? No, we're not going to go with you. The next loss to come is respect and authority. Think about it from a family unit. Okay, this church is made up of different family units. We understand from the Bible who is to be the head of the home. We're not all asleep. Who's supposed to be the head of the home? The husband, the father. Yes. Under the authority of Christ. Yes. Same as pastor is the head of this church under the authority of Christ. There's a hierarchy structure here. Watch a family that the husband has dealt with a besetting sin and tried to keep it hidden for so long. He's in positions of leadership in the church or in his community or whatever it is, and then that all comes to light. The debt's paid. It's out in the open. What does he lose? Respect and authority. People say, man, I thought highly of that man. I can't believe he would do something like that. Especially if he's a Christian. Unsaved family. I thought you were a Christian and you're doing this stuff. People watch. People hold you in high esteem. Ladies, same for you. Maybe it's family, maybe it's friends, maybe it's neighbors, whoever it may be. Maybe it's somebody in the church. Maybe it's a younger lady in this church that just looks up to you. Your testimony will make or break some of these young people too. Don't be deceived. You will lose your morality. You will lose respect and authority. And we don't see, I think we see this more today, living in the social media age that we do. Candace and I were watching a video the other day, and I don't know who this lady is, or this woman is. I shouldn't even call her a lady with the language that she used. This woman, I don't even know who she is, was on this podcast talking to this guy, and she had gone off this little tirade on how these ladies on social media with blessed in their bio or a verse or Christian or all these different like taglines in their bio on their social media page have used such foul language with her, have belittled her, have been just absolutely despicable to her. And the things that she was saying, it's like, yeah, if a Christian's saying that, I would absolutely be appalled too. But then she took it to the next level and had such disdain for Christianity that she went off and said things that even the video we were watching had to blur out a lot of it because of things that, but you could insinuate what she was saying. It's a never-ending cycle. And yet we do see so many Christians online with Christian in their bio, a verse, a saying, whatever it is. And they're some of the meanest people online. They are. Go through comment sections if you don't believe me. Go to any political post, any maybe like traditional lifestyle post, because that's big right now. Maybe it's a homeschooling post. I mean, whatever it is. Either Sister Chris or Sister Kathy this morning during Sunday school brought up the whole flat earth movement. That's big in the Christian movement right now. And you want to see some vile comments being made to people that don't hold to that? Go into those comment sections. Social media, because we're hidden behind this fake persona. We're hidden behind this fake wall, this computer screen, this phone screen. We're not face-to-face with these individuals. Christians have started saying, quote-unquote Christians have started saying some of the most vile and disgusting things. Why? Because now this individual, this unsaved person, has complete disdain for Christianity because of that. So now let's say somebody else that actually is striving to live for God, maybe it's a young lady that just comes across her things and wants to share the gospel with her. She's now going to look on that young lady with disdain because you're going to do the same thing these ladies did. I've mentioned it before. You want to know the most looked down group of people in the restaurant business? It's church groups on Sunday. They're needy. They're rude. They don't tip. They'll leave a track. I've seen it firsthand. And it absolutely ruins other people's testimonies too. It absolutely ruins the testimonies of those that work with those individuals and try to be an example and try to share the gospel with them. But it's like, you're going to do the same thing these people did? Our actions have consequences, and we will lose respect and authority if we are not careful. So whenever you're online, I would encourage you, consider James 1, verse 19. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. Don't jump off the handle. Don't lose your mind on something. If it's a post online, okay, you don't agree with it, great. Is it worth mentioning? Is it worth really putting that comment out there? If it gets your blood boiling, okay, take a break. Cool it down. Maybe put it in a draft folder until you have a clear head and think it through again. Be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. 1 Peter 3, verse 15. But sanctify the Lord God in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you of the reason of the hope that is in you with meekness and fear. There's a way to handle these situations without losing your morality and without losing your respect and authority. Because if you handle yourself that way, you'll find that those people, when life gets rough for them, who are they going to come to? You. They're going to be saying, hey, I know I've been mean to you in the past, but could you please pray for me? I'm going through this really rough situation. I've experienced that. I know others here as well. If you set yourself up with the right testimony and you're careful and you're long-term minded with it and protecting it and minding after it, when those people are really hit rock bottom on something, they're going to come to you. But if you ruin that respect and that authority, they're not going to come to you. You may go to them and say, hey, I heard you're in a rough spot. What can I do to help you? Like, I don't trust you. I've seen what you do. I've seen how you've talked. I've seen what you've said. I've heard what you've done. I can't trust you. But if you build that testimony with them, of that testimony of Christ, they'll come to you. and it's an opportunity for you to serve them, to share the gospel with them, to be a blessing. And then finally, number 3, you lose your morality, you lose your respect and your authority, and you lose relationships. We see that in Genesis 19. Verse 26, but his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. She had gotten so used to that life that when she heard the destruction taking place, she knows she was told to not look back, but she wanted it so badly she had to look back and suffered the ultimate cost of losing her life. And then you see his relationship with his daughters in the cave. He had lost respect and authority among his wife because she didn't even listen. He lost respect and authority with his daughters because they said, well, we're going to do what's right. They rationalized it. We got to save seed for our father. It's what's right. But we're going to do this. We're going to get him drunk and then have a child with him. And we get the Moabites and we get the Ammonites. The final and most devastating loss is what a ruined testimony does to our relationships. Lot lost everything if you think about it. His wife grew so accustomed to life in Sodom that she disobeyed the command of God. And his daughters committed fornication with him and brought about 2 of the enemy lines of the people of Israel, Moab and Ammon. How important are the relationships in your life? How important are they? Husbands, how important is your relationship with your wife? God can still work miracles after sin is exposed. He can. Absolutely he can. And I'm thankful he can. But how highly do you hold your relationship with your wife? That should be a driving force for you to protect your testimony with everything that you can. How about your relationship with your kids? How about your relationship with the people in this church, those that you call friends, those that you call maybe a close friend? How about your relationship with those people in the community that you've been building up over the years? How important are those relationships? Because that is what will drive the decisions you make. Because if you protect your testimony, you'll protect those relationships. You will. Because maybe your fall, you ruin your testimony, causes them to ruin theirs. It could be your fault. There's such a thing as generational curses if you study in the Bible. So gentlemen, especially, be careful. No matter how old you are, how young you are, doesn't matter. Be careful. Guard your testimony with everything that you can. Because we must remember there is an enemy that wants nothing more than to destroy our testimony. He can't, for those that are saved, he can't take away our salvation. He can't. That is secured in God's hand. He cannot take that. But he will do everything he can to destroy your testimony, to make you worthless. That's his ultimate goal for those of us that are saved. He wants to make you absolutely worthless in the eyes of every person out there. He wants to make this church absolutely worthless to this community around us. He wants nothing more than to destroy that. And he'll do what he has to. We read it earlier, 1 Peter 5, verse 8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil is a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Knowing we have an enemy who will do whatever he can to ruin us, we must approach everything we do with that long-term mindset. Just like Lot made the short-term choice, he's like, these plains are well-watered, but down the road there's Sodom. It's too far down. It's not that big of a deal. It's okay. I'll handle it before then. I'll take care of everything and I'll make the right choice later. These are just perfect right now. He ended up in the gate of the city. He ended up giving up his daughters. He ended up losing everything. We must run everything we do, every decision we make, every thought we have, every action we do, everything we say through the filter of Philippians 4, verses 8 and 9. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. Those things which ye have both learned and received and heard and seen, where? Where does Paul say here? Seen where? In me. He says, I have lived it out to you. Not because I'm anything special, but because of what I see as important in this life. I have lived this out to you. I've taught you. I have given you the word of God. I've done everything I can. I've lived my life. He's like, follow me as I follow Christ. He says, and then the God of peace shall be with you. So I want to finish with this morning. A light once bright upon the hill was seen, a beacon pure, untainted, and serene. Its glow was truth, a lamp of weary souls, a fire to guide where righteousness controls. But woe to him whose light begins to wane, who trades his crown for fleeting earthly gain. The lips once filled with wisdom, grace, and love now speak as fools, the voice of God removed. What power do the words of strayers yield or wield? What weight has truth when lived in shadow sealed? The world, what's drawn to Christ through holy men, now turns away and mocks their fall again. Once trusted hands now stained by sin's embrace, and hearts once soft have hardened in disgrace. No voice remains to call the lost back home, no friend to plead when folly makes them roam. The ties once forged in faith are torn apart. A brother's trust lies wounded in his heart. Respect is lost in shame we find instead. A name once praised, now whispered with the dead. O guard your steps, let virtue be your shield. Lest sin take root and all your hopes be yield. For testimony once shattered by sin takes years to build, yet seconds to cave in. So walk in truth. Let Christ be all you seek, and may his light shine brightly in all you speak. Notice that second to last stanza there. For a testimony once shattered by sin takes years to build. Takes years to build, yet seconds to cave in. It takes you so long to build that testimony with somebody, whether it's a spouse, a child, a family member, a friend, a coworker, a neighbor, whatever it is, whoever it is. It takes you years to build that. Second to cave it all in. It takes a second. Now, it can be rebuilt by the grace of God. Thankfully, it can be rebuilt. But it doesn't take long to just erode that. And it will take years to build it back. Think about that. So walk in truth, let Christ be all you seek. Doesn't mean we can't have fun. Like I said, people take this idea of just of giving everything to Christ. It doesn't mean that God wants us to just live a monk's life and just not do anything. We can have fun. Look at what we do in this church. I mean, we have game nights. We enjoy ourselves. We have fun. There's times where we have fellowship and it's sweet and it's fun and it's enjoyable. We laugh. We have a good time. God wants us to do that. But all within the parameters of what he has given us to do what is right. Because people outside, let's say we're having a church picnic and we're out in a public park. The people in that park that may not be a part of that group, our group, are watching us. Maybe we're playing a game and it gets a little too heated, a little too competitive. Well, they're like, well, I was going to go over there and ask them how they're like, what's more about their church, but you know what? I just saw that guy lose his cool over a wiffle ball game or over whatever it is, a game of washers. It's like, really? Have fun, enjoy it. That's what life's all about, right? But let Christ be all you seek. And keep your testimony forefront in your mind. A light once bright, it can be reignited. That's why we have revivals. But a light once bright can also go dim if we're not careful. All right, Pastor.